Welcome to another episode of Pursuit. We will be, we love trying new things on this episode. And this, hello, we love trying new things. Am I right? So, we will be trying these. It's a gummy snack pack. Oops, slid out the bottom. And Asha, are you asking us questions? Asha will also be doing something while we're doing this. So, included in this is mac and cheese, hot dogs with all the fixins, and pickles. I love pickles. I love pickles. AV team also has their own pack, so they'll be doing it as well. It does say it's fruit flavored. So.
Farah took a macaroni.
I'm gonna have a pickle.
What would you like, Kevin?
None.
No, actually, not what would you like. What are you taking?
None.
You will take at least one of each thing.
Why am I taking one of each?
Because we're both going to do one of each. What would you like to start with?
Surprise me.
It's a pickle for you.
It's gonna be a pickle.
Or cucumber, you can reframe your mind about. This is an interesting texture.
It's pickle Rick.
It's very squishy.
All right, what are we doing here? Oh,
We're eating it. I'm not as mad about this as I was about the others.
I just taste the ashiness in my mouth.
Mine's not ashy.
this is an actual gummy. I feel like you guys actually
this
did a
reminds
good
me
job
of the
for
Scooby
once.
Snacks. This texture.
You guys are starting off strong. Good job.
Nice. Asha. What do you
Okay.
have? Ooh. Mothball aftertaste.
So we all know the show Friends. We love
Yes.
it, correct?
That's all right.
Why?
You
I
do
should
like
know this about me.
Wait, what?
I don't think very highly of the show Friends.
But you've
Thank
watched
you.
it.
I've watched it, but I don't think highly of it. Let's do it. Friends trivia. Let's go.
Is that French trivia?
Okay, it's not French trivia.
Oh, 'cause I
well,
would not be good at
technically, okay. I'm gonna say popular
It's not
phrases
trivia. It's just
from
questions about the show.
Don't come for my girl.
right. Eat another gummy for that.
Finish the pickle.
Oh, dude.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna be saying popular lines from the show, and you have to tell me who said it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Are we buzzing?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I phone in Alexia?
She's in Europe. It is like 2:00 in the morning right now.
Okay. Welcome to the real world. It sucks. You're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Ross.
No.
Chandler.
Monica.
Correct.
Ah. Look at you.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna try a hot
Who
dog.
can deliver?
It was also.
Okay.
the friend the other day.
We were on a break.
That was perfect.
I thought you would know to take these off, Farah.
Okay. Look at me. I'm blank. Could I be wearing any more clothes?
Joey.
Correct. You want to do this one?
Oh, this is so much. She's your lobster. It's known fact that lobsters fall in love and mate for life.
Phoebe?
You can actually see old lobster couples walking around their tank holding
The
claws.
hot dog has more bite to it.
Not in a good way.
I'm not mad at it. I feel
I feel like the
prefer.
pickle was better.
Oh,
I like
remember
this
this.
texture better.
Really?
The pickle.
I can see.
It's like I feel like it can
You
get
know
stuck
what? I
in my
feel like
teeth.
the pickle had a better actual taste.
Yeah.
Wait.
Give me.
I feel like we're having 5 conversations. All right,
Okay,
next
are
question.
you
next
ready?
question.
Yeah.
You threw my sandwich away.
Ross.
You have to finish it.
My sandwich. My sandwich.
Okay.
I'm not great at the. I'm not great at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
Chandler.
Yeah.
How'd you not know that one?
I don't even know what she said.
I could barely.
yeah.
I heard sarcastic.
She
comments.
said-
This is what I saw. Blah blah blah, 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 and then she came back with the mic. Yeah, repeat it after Ariel gave the answer. Repeat it, Farah. Repeat it. Repeat it.
Okay.
It was Chandler.
That scared me.
Remember, if I'm harsh with you, it's only because you're doing it wrong.
Kevin. Oh.
That would
I
be
feel like
something
that's a
Kevin would
Monica
say.
thing to say.
Something he would say.
It is. I feel like that's a Monica comment.
Correct.
Nice.
Oh. No.
If I don't, oh my goodness.
Unagi.
Ross. As soon as I saw the hand, because when you said how we both got this, I was gonna say it.
I forgot how he says this.
That's a great story. Can I eat it?
Joey?
Yeah. You heard the bass in her voice?
Can I eat it? Mac and cheese
Okay.
time.
Can we eat the hot dog? Oh, mac and cheese?
Oh, we already ate the hot dog.
How was it?
You're
Yeah.
gonna find out.
Oh, this is hard.
Yours is hard?
Yeah.
All right, there's 4 of them in there.
What are we
It's
eating?
not given.
Hot
A
dog. Hot dog, hot dog. Oh, you ate the mac and cheese? I didn't eat it yet.
I just have
Oh,
to
feel like
swallow.
it
The
gets-
texture
That was
keeps...
gross.
It gets worse and worse as we go.
Hot diggity dog. Why didn't you make a copy and keep it in a fireproof box and keep it at least 100 yards from the original?
Monica.
Yeah.
Monica.
Very good. Point to Kevin. Oh, that was a good episode.
You gotta do all the rocks.
You
Ross.
just gave the answer. I'll do the other one. And I will do it. I will do watch
It's
watch
also
this.
Ross.
Wait, no, the one above it. The one above it. Who's FICA? Why is he getting all my money?
Joey.
Wrong.
Phoebe.
No.
Rachel.
Yes.
I don't know why I couldn't remember her name for a second.
I was gonna say Jennifer Aniston. That's what took me so long. What's her name? What's her name? What's her name?
That's all we got.
All right. I feel like that was a tie.
Who won? Have you even been keeping score?
We don't need to. You
We
won.
picked by the vibe.
Why do you
You
have to say
hit
it like
them.
that? Like, we don't need to keep score. You won.
Because
That implies you knew she was gonna win from the beginning.
No.
She didn't tell me.
I
any of the
believed in
questions.
you. I believed in you. But
So
Okay,
much
ask
that you
them a
couldn't keep
bonus
score.
question.
Okay.
That's not from
okay.
All right. So,
Why did I go back? I went to finish my macaroni.
I don't know why you gave me 2.
Mine also had 2.
Okay.
That was the one I just went back to finish. The second.
Yeah, I just put it down and then
It's
just
like a
leave it there.
reflex.
First off, it looks like one of those like foam peanut candy thing, and that's what it kind of feels like, but it's not as soft. I will
Circus
say,
peanuts.
compared to the plethora of other gummy things that you guys have had me try on this podcast, I do feel this was a better choice.
Yeah.
But then it got progressively worse as we kept
Yeah,
going.
but I still feel like our ending on this one is better than most of the ones we had before.
Yeah, I could still eat it. But yeah. All right. So, we've been talking a lot about Jesus and his ability to step away from the bird's eye view of really just humanity in general and just come down to which I feel like it's amazing we didn't mention this from the very first episode on this discussion. The fact that that's literally what Jesus did, leaving heaven to come down to humanity. The fact that we missed that is horrible. But yeah, so Jesus kind of mimicked that in the way in which he approached people. So one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight is this idea of intersections, right? Not to be confused with intersectionality, which I feel like is a totally different topic,
Very
right?
different.
So what we're talking about, right, are more almost like kind of like life events, I want to say, is the way that we're kind of talking about this tonight, right? things like graduations, getting married, even just getting like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, loss, whether it's of a job or a loved one, or a relationship. Um, there's a lot of moments in life in which I think when you look at what an intersection is, right, the crossing of two roads, we often have a lot of those in our lives, right? Um, even like birthdays and anniversaries, we tend to highlight those events in life, right? Um, and I think what's really interesting when you look at the story of Christ, kind of to what we were talking about in the last episode, with what was it, Mark chapter 5 and the demon possessed man, right? Jesus tends to meet people where they are, and often it's at these like intersections of life that we kind of all go through.
Yep.
Right. So I guess to kind of jump into things, right? There's two stories I want to look at. Both are in the book of John. One is the woman caught in adultery, and
Scandal.
the woman at the well, right? We'll start with the woman at the well, which is in John chapter 4. It's from verses 1 to 30, so we're not reading the entire thing
Dang
tonight.
it.
All right, fine. Jesus knew the Pharisees. No, I'm not doing that. But is that even the right chapter? Okay, it is. Sound like a weird opening to that
Maybe
story.
we should have read it.
So if you're not familiar with the story of the woman at the well, very simply is Jesus goes to this town of Samaria. Now, what's important to note about Samaria? Do you know what's important to note?
The Jews didn't mix with them.
Okay. So aggressive.
Even such to the point where they would add like an extra 2 days of their foot journey to go in the opposite direction if they had to pass by.
Around Samaria. Yeah. So what ends up happening is that Jesus would go to this place, and I believe the disciples go to try and like buy food or something like that. And Jesus goes to this well, and this Samaritan woman comes to this well to draw water, and Jesus and this woman have this extremely popular and famous exchange, right? I think, again, when you look at the life of Jesus and what he wants us to learn as believers, we see here him again just literally living it out in this sort of just real world example, I guess, right? Of meeting this woman where she's at, right? This intersection of life of she's doing almost this sort of mundane task, but yet he's gonna meet her there, right? This intersection, and essentially what happens is we're gonna see that he asks her for a drink, and then she replies, "Well, you're a Jew. I'm Samaritan." Wow. I'm a Samaritan. We don't really mix, and things like that, right? So the first thing we see in the story is this idea of something that unfortunately we still see today, right? This racial tension, right? And I think the first thing we see is Jesus sort of being like, all right, I'm not going to allow this tension to stop the interaction, right? Looking at the world and society today, Ariel, what do you think about what Jesus is trying to get us to understand about meeting people where they are?
A lot of times, like we've mentioned before, it's going to be an uncomfortable situation for different like reasons. And in this one, it was because societally these groups did not mix, right? Like you did not want to be caught like with someone seeing that you're associating with a Samaritan as a Jew. And so a lot of times you're going to have to cross those societal boundaries. You're going to have to put yourself in situations where you genuinely feel uncomfortable. You don't know like what it is that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for us to understand as believers today, because I believe or what I see a lot is a lot of kind of almost random societal divides amongst people, right? For some reason, we live in a time in which everyone wants to classify themselves as something, right? And kind of draw a line and say, oh, well, I'm this. And then if you're not this, then you're on the other side. And I think when we look at the life of Jesus, his, I don't even want to say it was his first instinct. He just naturally was like, I'm going to ignore that and just, I want to interact with this person, so I'm going to, right? So I think that's something just super important for us to kind of recognize when we talk about, like going back to our last episode, how do we love people?
You don't.
Okay, wow, that took a turn. No, but honestly, there's a lot of people who kind of have that opinion when it comes to reaching across the aisle, right? And I'm trying to pick my words very carefully here because I don't want to make this into like some political thing or anything else. But I think when it comes to reaching across to people who are different from us, a lot of the times it is, well, as you said, I love them with the love of God, and that's it, right? There's no attempt to try and get closer to them, to get in the vicinity of what's happening, or to ultimately, as we said last week or last episode, stand shoulder to shoulder with them, right? Um, but as the story continues, we see they have this exchange, and eventually they kind of get over. She's able to get past the racial tension, right? And then Jesus kind of reveals this ultimate truth to her, right? Which is the time is coming, and indeed it's here. This is verse 23. When true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, the Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. For God is spirit, so those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth, right? So, what do you think about that in the sense that once he's able to push aside the societal issues, he's able to get to the truth of the exchange, really? Thoughts?
Can you rephrase the question?
Yes, because I feel like I did it really, really badly. So,
See, I didn't want to say it. No.
Okay, so once Jesus gets past the racial tension, right? And even to that, when he does that, he doesn't try to actually argue the Jewish side, the Samaritan side, why this one is right or this one is wrong. He doesn't even do that, right? What he does is he just says, listen, if you understood what I could offer you, you wouldn't care about the fact that I'm a Jew and you're a Samaritan, right? What do you think about that way of Jesus handling racial tensions, right? By just confronting it with not truth, because I think for a lot of us, when we see racism, our thing is, well, racism is wrong, and that's the truth, right? We're all equal. His thing was, he just went even beyond that and just went straight to the truth of like the gospel. So what do you think about that in today's society?
I'm still not sure if I'm 100% there, but so are you saying that like the fact that he didn't
try to argue
that I'm right because
like racism is wrong?
Okay. He just went to the fact that I can offer you better than what you have.
Yes.
Okay. I think a lot of the times as like humans, as people, we do get caught up in the fact that I believe this is right, you believe this is right. And so you a lot of times you do end up in that argument of I'm right, you're wrong. And then the point of having this conversation, it gets completely thrown out the window. Because at that point, everyone's so convinced that they're correct and the other person is incorrect that you're just going over who's right and who's wrong, and the actual Like what I came to talk to you about, I don't even remember anymore because I'm just too heated, right? And so the fact that, so one thing that I've noticed about Jesus throughout all of like the scripture is that he is crazily level-headed, right?
Mm-hmm.
He keeps the, like, he has always kept, well, not always, there's that one instance where
I
he
was about to
wasn't.
say,
Yeah. Where he is
Unagi.
Hmm?
Nothing.
Oh, unagi.
See, I tried, but
I wasn't looking directly at you. I just kind of saw the hand a little bit. But anyways, yeah. So he is always level-headed, almost always level-headed and calm.
Mhm.
So which allows him to be like 2 or 3 steps ahead of what you might think should happen. And that's something that I'm trying to learn how to be because I got a mouth that likes to move faster than my brain does. So, so I have been trying to learn how to maintain that level of calm because, like I said, a lot of times you do get caught up in the I'm right, you're wrong, and this is why. Versus, I think that we can meet on this common ground and have a constructive conversation, so that we can both learn something from this.
So I agree. I just think Jesus still takes it a step further because he doesn't try to look for like common ground,
Mhm.
right? Because even she tries to like get to, oh well, there'll never be common ground because we believe this and you believe
Mhm.
that. But just like, okay, but you're missing the bigger picture, right? And I think it goes back to the analogy you had um from the last episode about having that bird's eye view of things, right?
Mhm.
I think a lot of times when we see such a, I don't know what the right word is, right? I don't want to say
Describe it.
universal, but like the issue of racism, it is so big,
Mhm.
right? That it's easy to not look at it at a personal level, but just look at it there, right? So
I feel like you're really looking at me to like fill
I
it in,
really, I
and
really thought you were going to.
I no,
Um,
I don't know.
I guess
I'm like with you in that I know what it is, but I
right,
don't know what it
but
is.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, but hopefully
Drop
that made
it in
sense.
the comments.
Yeah. But again, when you're looking at such a big issue, or like the last episode you had mentioned, like something like world hunger, right?
Yeah.
You have such a big issue. It is
It's something
easy.
with the C. It's not controversial. It's like
Don't look back at me for help. You're on your own right now.
now I'm continue. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to focus on anything you're saying.
So
But continue.
So one of the things that I think can happen is we get so caught up in the issue, right, on this sort of grand scale that we lose sight of the person that's being affected. And we often sometimes, and with good intentions, think, hey, if we can solve racism or we can enter whatever issue it is, the person will be okay, right? When Jesus does it and he goes, if you drink the water that I would give you, right, you'll never thirst again, right? He's not obviously, and the Bible addresses racism and why it's wrong. I don't want to say that, the Bible doesn't address that, but I think in that moment, Jesus recognizes, hey, I need to reach this person right now, right? And trying to dismantle racism right now or this grand issue is not the way to do it. But if I can meet her where she is and show her, hey, there is something better being offered than what you've been given all your life, right? Maybe that will change things. Right? And I'm not going to ask the question because I feel like you're still trying to think of the word
am.
that starts with a C. Okay. So,
I am following though.
okay. Any thoughts then or comments?
No. No.
Okay.
So I yes. I think now that I understand what the concept a bit more, yeah. So I think him showing her that he has greater things in store for her if she were to just listen to him or like just to drink of the water from like the living water, it kind of it surpasses the societal norms and the societal issues that they faced, right? So where she can kind of build it back in her mind to understand that, hey, just because someone says that it's this way doesn't mean it necessarily is. Right. And then on that personal aspect, she can then, like, she has then gone on to tell the rest of the townswomen or people, like, hey, this guy, he's like the real deal. Like, he was telling me things that no one else knows about me. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's, and to that point, right, you see now he kind of he reaches her. She now then goes and essentially evangelizes her whole town, right? And I believe they all kind of come to meet Jesus, right? And what I think is so great about this is that in the exchange, we see that Jesus is actually, without confronting or trying to solve racism in that moment, he's able to actually just eliminate it by addressing her actual need. And now all of a sudden, this whole village of Samaritans, they don't care that he's a Jew anymore. They're like, no, we need to get to what he's offering. And I think that's what's amazing about Jesus. When he meets us where we are, he knows the true, I think, issue that we're sometimes facing and knows what's the best solution for it. Right? And with that, we'll jump to the women caught in adultery. Because I think this is an interesting...
Wow, big jump.
Yeah, it is. A whole 4 chapters. And the reason I bring this one up when we talk about intersections and meeting people where they are, or where, crossroads in life, right? This is such an interesting exchange that happens, right? So if you don't know the story, it's John 8, verses 1 to 11. Jesus is teaching at the temple, right? A crowd has gathered around him. As he's speaking, teachers of the religious teachers and Pharisees bring a woman who's been caught in the act of adultery, put her in front of the crowd and Jesus, and then asks Jesus, what should we do with her, since the law of Moses says to stone her to death, right? When we talk about intersections and meeting people where they are, right, I find it very interesting that the people who are described as religious leaders, their reaction to her is, and I'll make the assumption here that the act of adultery was behind closed doors, so it was a private thing. They then publicly shame her, right, in front of just everyone. Whereas Jesus then would offer her mercy and grace, right? What can we, I guess, learn from that interaction, right? She meets 2 people who are essentially both teachers, right? Jesus is referred so much as teacher, right? There's these other people who have probably spent their whole life studying the law of Moses and all these other things, yet 2 totally different interactions. Thoughts?
Many thoughts, not all of which are relating to your question.
Let's say them all then.
All of them. Where's the man in this situation, right?
That's a very valid thought.
Amen.
Also, because like you said, it was like, I'm assuming that it was a private situation. Who outed them? Right?
It was him.
Unless they were in on the situation. But I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't want to cause speculation, you know what I mean? But
that's a wild speculation.
But yeah, they had 2 very different approaches, and I think it was because their intentions were different, right? So the Pharisees or the teachers, right? I don't remember what their actual titles were in the situation.
Well, New Living just says teachers and Pharisees.
All right, so both teachers and Pharisees. They were doing it to kind of trap Jesus in, like, I don't want to say like a lie, but like they wanted to trap him, see what he would do.
It was like they're trying to trap him in like this conundrum of, well, you've been kind of going, in their eyes, going against the law. Well, the law clearly says this, so what are you going to do?
Whereas Jesus' coming at it from a place of love, right? A place of knowing better and wanting better for the people around him. So he wasn't trying to shame anyone, because if the Pharisees and the teachers were coming from it as a person of like authority or like unbiased authority or privilege, they would have handled it in a different situation, in a different way, right? So like a lot of times things will happen, but that doesn't mean it's publicized, right? Even if someone gets like is caught or what's like they get in trouble for something, it doesn't mean it's going to be broadcasted to the world. So the most important difference with them is, again, their intention. Where are you coming at? What are you hoping to achieve from this situation, right? And so when Jesus, are you gonna go forward to continue with the story?
Go for it.
Okay. So as they asked him like, oh, what are you gonna do about this? And he's like, well, whoever hasn't sinned, you cast the first stone, right? Because otherwise, it's like, what is the saying? The pot calling the kettle black, right? It's like, or throwing stones at a glass house, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're no better than her, right? In the eyes, right? So like we are all sinners, but you calling her out for having this sin doesn't make you any better, just for the fact that you've called someone out, right? Just because I can see someone doing something wrong and I make a spectacle of them doesn't mean I haven't sinned also in my life. Doesn't mean I haven't made mistakes. But the fact that I think I'm better because I'm calling her out makes me worse.
And what I actually like about that, kind of going off what you said, is that so one of the things I found interesting was along the same lines of they're kind of comparing like whose sin is worse.
Yeah.
Like adultery's super bad,
Mhm.
so you're worse than me.
Yep.
Whereas obviously Jesus is, well, you're all sinners, so
Mhm.
throw the first stone. But what I thought was cool is that, or not cool, but interesting is we kind of refer to this story just as the woman caught in adultery, or the woman caught in the act of adultery. The Pharisees, the teachers, were more concerned with the act of adultery than the woman. Jesus was more concerned with the woman and not the act of adultery.
What about the other adulterer?
Um,
I would like to know.
So, but I think that goes to kind of show us something about the type of interactions we as believers should have with other people, right? Because I do think, right, that especially even growing up, I think that there was often more of a concern with the act of whatever than the person who was caught, right? And I think to some degree that still exists today, right? Where if the act is so bad, then that's it. Like I thought it was really interesting. There is a pastor who had a very public affair and things like that, and he was recently hired by another church. Right? Now this is, I think, maybe 2 or a year and a half to 2 years after whatever happened and became public. And what I thought was interesting is a lot of people are really angry that this guy is allowed back into the church because of what he did. And I was just kind of sitting there thinking, well, I get it, right? He's a pastor and he had an affair, which I think anytime a pastor commits anything outside of marriage when it comes to like moral failures, it's a very huge deal. Or we make a huge deal of it. But it was just really interesting to see people's reaction because they weren't concerned with him, his wife, his like 3 kids. No one cared about that. All people could see was, we caught you in the act of adultery, literally, and that's all you are now. And as I looked at this story, I just thought, wow, Jesus actually goes, hey, you who's without sin, cast the first stone. And I think a lot of us can take away something from that. And I'm not here to argue whether the guy should work in a church or not. That's besides the point. I just think that when we are more focused on the act and not the person, right? We're not living to that true call of Christ, right? Because to be Christ-like is to be more concerned, I think, with the person than the act. Yeah.
Questions then.
Sure.
So what are your thoughts on the I don't know the exact saying, but if it's something like it's like love the person but not the sins or something like that.
So
Do you know that?
I know what you're talking about. I know a huge thing with it was that it's not a biblical statement.
Yep.
Right? So here becomes, so I to some degree believe the statement is correct. I just believe it's an incomplete statement, right? Because though Jesus was more concerned with the woman than the act, he does not leave her in a place in which he's going to continue in that act, right? Right? Was it verse 11? And Jesus says, "Go and sin no more," right? So I think when we talk about love the sinner, not the sin, right? Yes, we should love sinners, right? And not the sin they commit. But to demonstrate Christ-like love means to love them to the point where they sin no more. As Jesus had spoken to the woman caught in the act of adultery, right? So I think the statement isn't necessarily wrong. I think it's an incomplete thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch you next week.
Oh. This is what we do now?
That's what you did.
Yeah, I did it once. I didn't know this was gonna be like a.
So I did it once. We're 1 for 1.